your mask off. So with that, we will move to the Pledge of Allegiance with Member Mark Kosher. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. A couple items as we prepare for public comment. There are some cords, so please be careful walking up to the microphone. This is not a question and answer as a part of public comment, and we will limit it to 3 minutes and no personal attacks. So with that, we do have 2 members of the public that would like to speak. And again, a reminder, state your name and address for the record. First is Lisa Pierzakowski, CDBG funding.
Lisa Pierzakowski, 1700 Midway Place, Suite 6. I'm talking in reference to as a Center Township trustee.
I'm sorry, can you move the mic closer?
Is that better? Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. I wasn't able to make it to the last meeting. Excuse my dress attire. I was hoping to be on Zoom, but Tom wouldn't give me the link. So I've been out working with the homeless this morning. We've got rapid rehousing coming available, so we're trying to get our homeless gathered up so we can get them into housing. But the reason why I'm here is because there was questions about the CDBG funding. First of all, thank you for making that go on till December. But that CDBG funding is for COVID only. It's not easy to spend that funding when it's linked to COVID only. So in the past, that has been if somebody had COVID or if they were off work due to COVID or something like that, but it has to be associated with COVID. I know that Catholic Charities was also having trouble spending their money. They came up with an affidavit, and we went over the affidavit, Mary Ann. So now we're actually able to help more people. As a matter of fact, we had 3 people in the office this week already, or actually 1 on Friday and 2 on Monday, that will be able to use the COVID funding for. So we just had to think outside the box a little bit, and it's not just if they contracted COVID or something like that. It could be that they had to quit their job to stay home because of daycare with schools being out, or it could be that they had to quit their job to stay home, take care of a family member or something like that. So we will be able to spend more of the funding now, but again, it's not like I can just spend it on any person that walks in the door for rent, nips, or water. And basically, we are the only agency able to help with first month's rent and deposit. Most agencies cannot help with deposits, but we are able to do that right now with our grant money that we receive from United Way. So, like I said, if it was money that we could just spend for anybody like the mayor has people come to me if they need help with cleaning up bed bugs. That's not something we have funding for. So the way we kind of work the way around that is we can pay their rent or their NIPSCO or something like that, and then they pay for the bed bugs. So we kind of have to, shift gears a lot of times to be able to help people. But if we had a funding where it was able to use for anything other than just that, it'd be a lot easier. So again, that was COVID funding only. It's not like any other funding. Okay? Thank you.
Lisa.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lisa, for all you've done. We are here at the beautiful Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte, which is a true gift to our community to be used. And Maria Fruth is here, and she'll be speaking later. But, you hear about the bed bugs. It truly is. And again, Lisa has done a fantastic job. Jeff Batchelor, who is code enforcement, is also mental health, support, food help, a variety of things that Jeff has done above and beyond, as well as Maria when we talk about bed bugs, Finding Dollars, Unity Foundation, all the organizations that have helped people to try to improve their life. We're very fortunate in LaPorte. Number 2, Sam Lebesnick. Welcome, Sam. I just would like to say, free hamburgers or biscuits would usually help support here as we're in the early mornings.
You
give me a heads up for the next meeting and we'll make that happen. We can do that. Well, thank you very much for the warm welcome. My name is Sam Lebesnick. I'm of 164 Pine Lake Ave. Is the location of my business. One of my two businesses here in LaPorte. I'm the local McDonald's owner-operator. And I'm coming to you today to speak about a neighboring property, the old Don George Ford dealership next to us. So I apologize, I'm uncharacteristically a little less prepared than I would normally be. I've been working with Mr. Casey since March, and as communications lapsed, I called to reach out just to find out recently at the end of last week that he was no longer with the city. And it was suggested that I come to the board directly today. So normally I would come with a little bit more of a plan in place for you, but I wanted to come to express my interest in partnering with the city to improve that location. Currently, I know we've got a for sale sign there. I believe most of us are at least aware of the eyesore that has become a caving-in roof. I don't know if everyone's aware that there are people living there. My team routinely cleans up hypodermic needles and has people, especially at nighttime, wandering around in the back. So we've done the best we can to keep up with it. We haven't had any incidents yet, but I'm very interested in partnering with the city to, number one, remove the eyesore, number two, avoid a potential safety and security risk to local people, businesses, and citizens. So, like I said, not being able to finish my work with Mr. Casey, I do not have a full development plan for you, only that I will tell you that my profit center is my restaurant there. I'm not looking to get rich off this property. I'm not looking to go through there. I think this is a great opportunity to partner with the city to do something that would pair with the plans the city or the county or even the DNR have for Lily Lake and the surrounding areas. My primary objective is to remove that safety and security risk. I would take advantage of some additional parking in the meantime. But as this team and the city and local economic development determined what they thought was best for the city, I would be happy to partner in whatever capacity that they deem best. So, again, thank you for your time. Wanted to express my interest officially, and if there's an appropriate contact or way that I should move forward, I would be eager to work with those appropriate people. And I will leave my contact information with someone before I go.
Thank you. And Sam, we'll be updating the Don George situation as a part of this meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody?
No, and right now we just have YouTube, as I understand it.
YouTube, social media asking to speak? Hearing none, clerk treasurer Parthun, claims approval.
Okay, we've got payroll in the amount of $446,779.10.
I move we approve the payroll.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
We have civil city claims in the amount of $503,234.25.
I move we approve the civil city claims.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
We have water claims in the amount of $72,479.16.
I move we approve the water claims.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
And finally, we've got sewage claims in the amount of $80,583.95.
I move we approve the sewage claims.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Customer adjustment request.
So we have had an opportunity to do an update to a standard operating procedure in both the water department and the utility billing department. I emailed the Board of Works members, July 22nd, about this user. It's a landlord situation, and I'm just gonna go through briefly through the email. The landlord had a water leak at his rental property. He actually has the bill in his name, so the bill comes to his home address. The rental property is the one that had the high usage, and all City of LaPorte protocols were completed. The meter readers got an alarm, the meter readers carded the property and noted the account. But the problem is that the property is not where the landlord obviously lives. So after talking with Tim Werner, the water superintendent, we agreed that something needed to be updated. He updated his standard operating procedure to include sending a list of high-usage customers to the utility billing office each day or whenever that occurrence happens, for the utility billing employees to be able to contact the property owner as well as card the property. So, yeah. I'm asking the Board of Works for approval to adjust his water and wastewater usage to the average usage from the previous 12 months, as it deviates from the current policy/ordinance.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second discussion. I'd first like to say, Courtney, thank you for the team to put the great detail that you did together. This is why these meters, Tim, are working. I guess my one question is, would this have been solved if the landlord put this in his name,
Well,
It is in his
It is
name.
in
the
his
bill
name.
is in his
Yeah, it
name,
is in his
so
name.
our.
but going to his address? He would see that's what I'm trying to understand is
He received, since we bill from the 15th to the 15th,
right,
the property was carded on June 1st. He doesn't receive that bill until early July. So the leak happened, the card that we put on the door is supposed to be the indicator that, hey, you've got an issue, call us so we can help. But when the property owner doesn't live on the property, that's where there was kind of a gap in, I just feel like there's
Communication or
more that we could
breakdown.
have done, and so that's why Tim and I got together to update what we could do so that this doesn't happen again to a landlord in the future.
This seems very fair and reasonable to me,
Yeah,
for both
especially for a
sides.
landlord that's already taken the initiative to put the bill in his name, you know, we've all talked about that lately, so I
Right,
felt it was fair not to punish him for this, you know, I mean, he's making an effort to do what we requested from him. Like Courtney was saying, in the past, we've always tagged the property, let them know, hey, you got a leak, get a hold of us, we'll come and address the issue with you, or at least, you know, help you find out what's going on. And it just slipped through the cracks this time, you know, the renters weren't passing that information along. So, me and Courtney got together and, you know, I felt it was best just to do a 12-month average for him, you know. I think it's fair. And from now on, as we get those high usage or leak alarms, we send that information to the utility billing office. That way, if the address and billing address don't match up, we've tagged the property, they can send the letter to where the bill goes, and I think it's, we'll take care of any issues we have in the future. I think it's a fair thing to do.
but it is good to see that a landlord's putting it in their name.
Yes, sir, I agree with that. And
That's
that's why I think
important.
it's important that we approve this average for him.
is he also current with his account?
Yeah, so, I mean, before this, I haven't had him, we had to make sure that we could show, we had to bill for the water usage to then get the average for the
Right.
previous 12 months. So, yes, he's current besides this situation. He's always been current. It also affects it also affects two bills since we bill from the 15th to the 15th, and it was carded on June 1st, which is why the average is important, so.
Are we able to proactively find out where we have other situations like this, where the address and the bill go to two different addresses?
Yeah,
To
I think
potentially
the-
prevent this?
The utility billing office will have to spend a little time and seeing if there's a difference between the service address and the billing address.
Yeah, we can pull reports
yeah.
for that kind of item, but also having the protocol in place now, the SOP in place, because the meter readers do a great job. When they get an alarm on high usage, they're out there same day, I mean, probably same hour, because we
Yeah.
don't wanna see.
Any
Tim and I
loss
have
of
these
revenue.
conversations all the
Yeah,
time. We don't
yeah.
wanna see someone with a $600, $700 water bill, so, yeah, they card it the same day, they note it in the account, and it was practice that until the customer called the utility billing office, we didn't really have a role in that situation, but, with Invoice Cloud and collecting customer emails and updated phone numbers, we've got all the information, so we need to be proactive in calling them as well, and we're happy to do so.
And so every morning when we get those leak alarms or high usage alarms, the meter guys are sending that address to the utility billing, and that's where we're going through this set of checks. Are they the homeowner? Where's the bill go? And just notifying everybody involved with that account, so we don't have the loss of revenue through water loss.
Also seems like since this hasn't come up before, at least not in my time on the Board of Works, it's not a very common issue. Is that fair to say?
Not since I've been here.
Yeah,
I don't know if anyone
that's a fair
else.
statement.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Department of Reports. Let's see who, Nick Minnick. First instead of last, come forward, please. And again, remind everybody you can take off your mask if you'd like to at the podium.
Thank you. Just a couple items. 18th Street, we've all been waiting for. They're going to start grading tomorrow. So whether or not it's fully open for the first day of school, I'm not sure it will be, but should be very close. And then we talked last Board of Works meeting about NIPSCO and their ongoing project, mostly on Weller. And they are adding an additional crew. They were able to move another crew, so they think about 3 weeks and that project should be wrapped up. So a lot of the frustrations we've been having should be clearing up soon. And then did want to let the board know that we submitted a community crossings matching paving grant last Friday. So we asked for the maximum amount. Hopefully we get it. It's about 23 segments of roadway in the city. Once we actually get the money, we can kind of start planning for how we complete those streets.
And just as a reminder, not everybody's road will be done. We have limited funds. We still have a lot of work to do, but Nick put together a very good plan. Mike Frey's put together, the two of them working together to put a plan before the state to match our funds.
When do we find out about that?
It'll be later this summer. So in previous years, when we had the kind of second round of grant dollars, we've waited until spring of the following year, but there might still be some availability to do a small amount of work this year too.
So like September-ish, when
Yeah.
you say end of
And
summer?
yeah, end of the season. So the earliest work would start with this grant would be in October.
Thank you.
Okay, a quick question on the NIPSCO. I know one of the issues was the notification of where they're working. Any progress on that with them?
Yeah, so NIPSCO didn't realize their contractor hadn't been making the notification, so they were getting with them and making sure that they started making those proper notifications. I have seen kind of a little bit better detour signage since that conversation, and then I do need to reach back out to kind of the list of contacts and make sure that they're all being contacted regularly.
Thank you.
And then the laydown yard, are we closer? Do we see that?
They'll
They'll-
move out
they'll
of the
clear
laydown
that
yard
out.
at the same time, so about
Great.
3 weeks and they'll be out.
Thank you. Jess Bruder, Communications.
Good morning. Not much from me this morning. I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out and enjoyed Lake Fest with us. It was a really good time. I've heard lots of people say it was a big success, so thank you for that. We do have some t-shirts still available, so if you missed out, didn't get your shirt, they will be sold at the park office for the next couple of weeks. They will be pickup only and cash only, so just bear that in mind. And then finally, we have some training sessions starting for the website this week. So I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks, everyone will be trained, and all of the changes will be made that are necessary, and we can wrap that project up once and for all.
Mark Schreiber and Jess Bruder did an amazing job taking Lake Fest to the level they did for this weekend, and I would have been disappointed if you didn't mention the t-shirts. So they are available quite a bit, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Well done.
Beth West, Transport.
Good morning. Nothing really new to report. The only thing I want to remind the public is that we are still requiring you to wear a mask when you're on transport. We are providing those. I just ordered another 500 to restock. We will not stop until the CDC tells us to stop. And we're continuing to sanitize our buses in the morning like we have been through the whole pandemic, so.
And that is a federal requirement because we do receive federal funds, so just for the public record.
Correct, yeah. The limitation we put on ourselves, we're only allowing a maximum of 6 riders. Our buses can hold 12, but we're doing that for their safety and our driver's safety.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Heinold, Planning.
Good morning, David Heinold, City Planner, Community Development and Planning Office. Nothing really new to update. I've been working on a few things with the Maple Avenue property that we have, getting the appraisals for that property. Just to update you real quick, we have a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting next week with a couple of development-related items, 2 variances. And next week is Business Improvement District meeting. We have some maintenance items that we've been taking care of. So that's really all I have for the time being. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, David. Tim Warner, Water.
Thank you, Mayor. The water department has finished up with the Lakeside main extension project. The main is in, it's been tested, passed all the back tees and pressure tests. The crew started this week going back and re-tapping the residents on that new main to go ahead and discontinue those long service lines. Once everybody's re-tapped on the new main, we'll go ahead and go back on the Closser Ave and do disconnects on those old service lines. Project went really good. Be ready for paving here soon. Still working on getting a site review out of IDEM for our well field. They had it scheduled for tomorrow. I got an email yesterday morning that they want to push it back. I think it's a staffing issue with IDEM. I think they're just a little behind right now. So the only thing that concerns me about that is just we're pushing that project further and further back. Once they approve the site and we do the test wells and see if they're favorable for production wells, we have another 60-day construction permit we'll have to apply for through IDEM. So we're getting late in the season here. Hopefully we don't have real cold weather in the fall and we can still get that line bored in. The well construction's not going to be an issue. It's going to be putting in that raw water main feed coming into the Lake Street plan. I think is where the holdup might be. Just keeping our fingers crossed that we have a mild beginning of winter so we can move that line through. One other thing I wanted to bring up to the board, back in 2012 we bought an insertive valve machine. You've all heard me talk about being able to do multiple stops and stuff on lines. We purchased a new line stop machine last year, or earlier this year, I'm sorry. The insertive valve machine is through a company, Advanced Valve Technologies, AVT. It was one of the first rounds of this machine coming out. They found some problems with them. Now we've experienced one. The way this machine works, it has a mill that goes, it mounts onto the pipe, goes down, drills a hole, and then kind of mills the top of the pipe out so we could put a gate valve on top of that, where the gate would slide into that main for a control valve. Well, that bit is not retracting now. There's some pieces in there that are broke. They want $27,000 for the new head, but they'll rebuild the one we have for about $10,000. They claim the new design is bulletproof. I think it's just production issues. As the equipment has evolved, they've realized they needed to make some changes on it. We've always had a little bit of a problem with it sealing, so they've made those ports a little bigger. Instead of being 1/2-inch ports, they're 3/4 ports, which will help us do our job correctly. So I'm still in the middle of seeing what we can do to fix this, but I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that we might have to spend a little bit of money to get that equipment fixed. It's about a $150,000 piece of equipment. Like I said, the new motor's 27. We can get this one rebuilt for about 10. Makes sense to me. But I'm gonna go to some local machine shops and see if we can get that piece made I don't know, you know, the ABT guys are coming to talk to me personally next week, so I'll have a little more information on what way we'll go with that repair. It is a vital piece of equipment for us, especially in emergency situations. If we had an open pipe, we'd be able to go there and put a valve on and stop that water, you know, so we wouldn't lose our towers or pressure throughout the system. So it is a valuable piece of equipment for the water department. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention, and I'll keep everybody posted on what we feel as a department, the direction we need to go with that. And that's all I had this morning.
Thank you.
I appreciate looking at some different, I appreciate you looking at some different options there for that. Is there, so with that piece of, obviously, we've had it for quite some time, but is there any potential recourse in your negotiations with them to, you know,
I
get
went
them to
that way
cover a
with
piece
them.
of that work on the equipment?
They're holding pretty fast on it. I mean, the machine had a 3-year warranty. Obviously, we're way past that point. The new motor would have a 3-year warranty, but the rebuilt motor would only have a 1-year warranty. So that's something we're taking into consideration also. I feel comfortable with the rebuilt process. They kind of went over that with us, and you know, as everybody knows, new equipment comes out. As it progresses, they make changes to, you know, issues that come up. And I think they're at that point now where they have a decent head for that machine. I do feel comfortable with their new bulletproof ideas they have there. I mean, when they were talking to us, a lot of it made sense. You know, we were having issues with the ports sealing. We never brought that up. They brought that to our attention, and we're like, yeah, you know, we realize that. So we'll just see where it goes. Like I said, I'm gonna take it to the machine shop, see if they can fix that brass piece, or just go ahead and get the rebuilt piece of equipment. So,
But right now, we're without that type of equipment
we still have our
altogether.
line stop machine, so we can, in an emergency, we could still make those stops as long as we didn't have multiple stops we had to make. So it is important that we get this fixed as soon as possible. That's why they're coming next week, and I'll probably move ahead with it before the next Board of Works meeting, just in case we do have an emergency. I just wanted to come to you guys and let you know where we stand on that equipment.
Thank you. Lori Larson will be substituting for Jerry Jackson today for wastewater.
Thank you. We are wrapping up the Lakeside Sewer relocation project. Selge, the contractor, is returning tomorrow. They're gonna go through customer punch list items and work on the lift station beginning Monday. Unfortunately, there is a generator that's on back order until, I believe, the end of next week is the new date we were given. Otherwise, Lakeside should wrap up in the next 2 to 3 weeks and be complete. We have Monroe Manor that just kicked off last week. Letters were hand-delivered to all of those residents, letting them know a tentative schedule of what's gonna happen. Tree removal started last week. They were removing drive aprons and sidewalk curbs this week. Next week, HRP plans to start the water main. So it's progressing well, quickly. There's a community Facebook page, which I had no idea existed, but someone received the letter that we delivered, and all of the Monroe Manor residents, I guess, subscribe to this Facebook page. So communication is going very well. Truesdale Lift Station, controls should be in this week. Pump mounts are in. We're gonna get that work completed as soon as possible. We had some issues with backflow. They've been addressed as of this week. And the generator, unfortunately, is also on back order until October 20th. That's the new date we were given for the Truesdale Lift Station. But things should be moving along as soon as possible, and that should be wrapped up soon. Letters and number streets, we're preparing all of the backup work to hopefully get bids here, to request for bids soon. Other than that, that's keeping us busy.
Jeff Batchelor, Code Enforcement.
Good morning. One of the things that we've been really focusing on is the chronic nuisance properties. And I just want to reach out to all the citizens of LaPorte. With their help, they've really reached out, and if they've seen chronic properties that's really causing problems, they've called the police and made reports. So it's made it a lot easier for us to be able to deal with these people. And because of everybody stepping up, and it's also going along with your vision, Mayor, of changing the outlook of the city of LaPorte. So with that, we've also condemned a lot of different apartments that just ain't up to standard and that stuff. So we're right around 3,000 violations so far for this year, so, you know, we're going right along like we were last year.
But just as a reminder, and you condemned a house across the street from Hanley, to have a house condemned, and you worked with the police department, that was great work by the drug task force. But how many calls, I just want to clarify, you would have to have at least 8 separate police calls, correct, to get to the point of condemnation?
Well, to just start it off, there's 2 phone calls at least, and there's usually a few more before that, and then that calls for a conversation. Then we go have a conversation that basically gives them a warning that you're on the list, okay? If there's any more, then you'll get a fine, and you can have five calls from this point forward. And then if the calls keep coming in, I go to them, I give them, there's a fine that goes, it's a $150 fine, $35 for each officer that comes, and they get that fine. And then once they receive 5, then that building or that apartment is condemned. And
So you
they're
have
not
to
allowed
really
to stay
work
there.
at being condemned.
Huh?
You have to really work at being condemned.
Well, you have to really not want to take and do what you're supposed to do, really is what it boils down to, because police are there, we're coming and talk to you too, and you continue in the actions that we don't want to have in the city of LaPorte, is really what it boils down to. It really starts and stops with them. If they want to be in the city and follow our rules, then they'll stop. If they don't, then we're going to continue to do this, and they're going to end up losing their house or losing their apartment.
But when we have a house next door to a child care facility, across the street from an elementary school, it's unacceptable. Needles everywhere and history of problems, sorry. You're not gonna be in our community,
I'm not going to apologize for that.
so.
Mayor, I mean, you're correct that that's one way, the more common way a house gets condemned, or property gets condemned is I guess, the condition of it. And again, if it gets condemned, Jeff's been there a lot, giving them opportunities to repair the property.
And on that same property that we're talking about, the police served a search warrant, and the person was taken into custody. And then there was a lot of, it was an unsafe building because the roof was falling in and the walls had decay in them and that stuff. So the building was actually condemned at that point too. But at that point, they have a chance to actually fix it. So if they step up and make the corrections, then we'll come back in and do a walkthrough with the building inspector, Floyd Merzinski, and make sure that the building's up to par, and we can lift it. We can lift the condemnation, and it's a good building to go back to. But if they don't want to take and do that, then we could go forward with the demolition, go to court and see if we can get a demolition for the building too.
But these processes, and again, the police department, on Grove Street, we're constantly there. The police aren't even, they're supporting these individuals that have a drug issue that relate to these nuisance properties. And the police just recently sent one of those individuals to an inpatient facility, and they lasted 2 days. Again, the only locked facility in the state of Indiana is what they call prison. So you can't force these individuals to stay, but the police department's doing their job. Code enforcement is doing their job. There is help there, but the people have to be willing to take it, and if they don't, it's their loss.
I think the one important highlight that I'd like to just point out is, you mentioned earlier about the phone calls that people call in to highlight some problem somewhere, and I think that's probably what a lot of us have seen in talking to folks in the community, is that when the enforcement actions are being taken the right way, addressing the right things, the people in the community have confidence in that, and then they make those calls, right, to let you know that there's a problem somewhere, where you can certainly envision situations in the past where just people don't call because no one does anything about it. So I think that's a really important thing, and I feel as though we've really have come around on that to the point where, in just general conversation with people in our community, they know that things will get taken care of. So that's really encouraging to see.
I think one of the things that originally, I used to get a lot of phone calls and said, I made a lot of phone calls and there was no follow through on anything. And only thing that I ask people is still continue to call and give me a chance. Give everybody in my department a chance to come down there and make the changes. It doesn't happen overnight. We dealt with that apartment that house behind Hanley. There's a procedure that we've got to follow. And that's where people sometimes really, they expect right there, once it's condemned, that we can go and get an order and get it demolished the same week. You know, there's a process that takes time, you know. Sometimes, you know, that's the last resort, getting it demolished, you know. We have a housing shortage. If we can get somebody to take and fix it and bring it back up to par and get people that are quality living in these things, that's what we want. If they don't want to do that, then that's a different story. But, you know, the last thing we want to do is go demolish 50 buildings in the city of LaPorte, because that's not helping nobody. You know, that's not what we want.
Speaking to that effort then, Mr. Lebesnick brought up the Don George building. Are we aware of everything that's going on in there?
Yes, I've brought that up to the mayor numerous times.
He has brought that up, Mr. Snyder has brought it up, and that's why we're moving as quickly as possible. Mike Frey, Street Department.
And we're still out cleaning up from the storm last week. We're total patching and taking trees down.
And great work with the trees. We had a lot, I mean, for us deep sleepers that may not have heard the storm, to wake up and find out all the tree damage we had. The street department did a great job of cleanup to get our roads open. Chief Breton, Police Department.
We had the graduation a week and a half ago. We have one officer just started Monday at Academy, so he'll be there for 15 weeks. And I'll talk about the upcoming retirement later here. And then the elephant in the room, everybody saw the homicide that the mayor harassed me on for several days trying to get information. I wouldn't give him information, but our detective bureau did an outstanding job. Called in the sheriff's department to help process the scene. We're out there for several hours. Started out as a anonymous tip at 9 o'clock in the morning. By 1 o'clock in the morning, we had a confirmed homicide. So my hat's off to the guys and girls in the detective bureau. Did an outstanding job.
Great teamwork, and the second part of that is the public was never in danger.
That's correct.
So, Chief Snyder, Fire Department.
Thank you, Mayor. Not too much going on with the department. We are, as you've probably heard in the news, there's a increase in COVID cases. We are seeing a little bit of that, luckily, in LaPorte, not substantial at this point in time. Our personnel have never backed off of the precautions that they are taking on the normal calls, even the COVID calls, so we're not seeing any of that in the department at this time. Another item, we're working right now to get our health screens and mandatory physical scheduled for the year, and hopefully we'll have that done shortly and get all of our personnel passed through that process.
And we are encouraging department heads to really work with our employees to provide vaccination options. We are not at 100% yet of employees, and we want to provide as many options of vaccination, COVID testing, but please, if you haven't had your vaccination, and department heads continue to stay in front of the employees. As a separate note, and Jerry's not here, but we have our wastewater tested at MIT in Boston. I don't know if you can speak to this, Lori, but shocking information that the testing results came back of the uptick in COVID that can be tested based on our wastewater.
That's exactly it. It's called Biomet, and they're testing samples daily. We send samples daily, and we are seeing exactly what the country's trend is seeing. It's just an increase, even though they're not being reported maybe per se through the hospital or COVID sites. There is an increase in COVID in our area.
There's COVID in the water.
There's COVID in the water.
Okay, department heads, for those of you that do not have business in front of the Board of Works, you're welcome to leave and go enjoy your day. New business. And again, we're honored to be here at the Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte's new facility. Again, what a gift, prize to our community and the work that they've done to make LaPorte and the county a better place and a healthier place. We fully support their mission of being one of the top 10 healthiest communities by 2030. And everybody sees in news media, social media, the great work that they do from a health perspective with upgrading our trails and all the work they've done there. But I just have to put out there, you know, when you look at their website, and I just pulled this off briefly, under their Healthy Minds, you know, they also support the LaPorte Recovery Center, which is the methadone clinic. $400,000 there. Detox Now, Swanson Center, over $1 million since, I believe, 2017. Healthy Children to help decrease the number of low birth weight births, decreasing the number of uninsured children, improving education about tobacco and drug use, increasing access to mental health for children, which is over almost $3 million since 2017. And then as well, Healthy Living, over $7 million, reducing obesity and weight-related chronic diseases, improving access to healthy foods, reducing food deserts. It's just amazing all the work that the Healthcare Foundation has done with their mission to make a difference on every aspect. And I've said this from day one, where would we be without the Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte? Can you imagine? That'd be a difficult issue to face. So with that, we have the one and only CEO of the Healthcare Foundation, Maria Fruit, and she has a presentation to share just at all the work that they do. Welcome, Maria, again.
Thank you.
I
Thank
think
you.
you slept here last night.
I know. Yes, we left late, didn't we? Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Maria Fruit, the CEO of the Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte. I am under the impression that everybody by now know that the Healthcare Foundation was established March 1, 2016 from the proceeds of the sale of IU Health LaPorte Hospital. So I'm going to very briefly just give you the elevator speech concerning about who we are and what we do, and especially for the ones of you that are not quite clear exactly how is this structure.
Excuse me, Maria, if I could say, is there a cell phone that's on?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. Our vision is to be among Indiana's top 10 healthiest community by the year 2030. When we started the research in 2016, when we opened the doors, it took us a few months to establish the foundation, just like opening a new business, especially because this is an independent, private foundation. Very different from what I was quite used to as a public foundation when I was overseeing the LaPorte Hospital Foundation. Very different approaches and RIS guidelines, by the way. So we went deep into a strategic mode to understand what are the needs in the community, mainly focusing on LaPorte City and, of course, LaPorte County, and that's our geographic boundaries. So our, grant making can only go to impact LaPorte, in the boundaries of LaPorte County. The mission is to empower all the residents in LaPorte to live healthy and well, bring in whatever it's needed to uplift the community and, make sure that we have all the solutions to some of our major problems here, which sometimes is not quite easy. Easy said, not easy done. Values, excellence, innovative, visionary thought leadership, collaborations, commitment, and compassion. So all of this is on our website in details. And if you want to see a full report of giving, again, it's there. There is a report from 2017, first grant cycle to 2020, and then a separate report for this first cycle of 2021. We are right now in the process of reviewing grants for the second cycle, and we have about $1.6, $1.7 million of requests, which will go through due diligence, a lot of questions back and forth, presentations sometimes, and presented to the board for their vote or direction. So this is our board of directors. We have incredible leadership and very, very happy to work with this group of community members. It's chaired by Senior Judge Kathleen Lang at present time, and Scott Sifker as our vice chair, Rich Schmidt as our treasurer, and Michelle Magnuson as our secretary. All of them are hands-on, and I cannot appreciate the involvement, their time, their talent is crucial to the success of this foundation. So again, like I said, we started to, doing strategic planning and realized we look a lot at the county rankings, which is what I call the grades of each county related to health, economy, a lot of different functions. You'll be seeing a little bit more about that. And realize that for healthy behaviors, LaPorte County was 92 out of 92 counties in the state of Indiana. So lots of work to be done, and it takes a lot of different components to this. You will take the fire department delivering classes for, CPR. You will take a not-for-profit like Doombrook addressing, sexual assault and, teaching children how to identify issues related to child abuse. So it takes everyone involved in this community to really be a successful community. I don't have to tell you that. We are very fortunate in LaPorte to have a leader such as Mayor that keeps pushing this to the next level and to the next level. And all of you play an incredible part on this. So we would be staying here a long time if I had to identify all of this, but I wanted to make sure that you understand our focus areas. Those are the strategic areas that you have to start small. That is always a little joke, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So we needed to focus on the main issues that we had identified. Healthy living, of course, is on the top of the list. You can imagine that if we have a healthy population, that reduces hospital, time in a hospital, let's put it that way. It reduces, for the employers, it translates into more healthy time at work, not dealing with whatever type of disease. And for all of us, the list goes on and on. So healthy living is really focused on not only, for us, it's called HEAL, healthy eating, active living. And you notice that we have been assisting with a lot of infrastructure in the city. Let's make sure that the parks are up to the highest level possible, that we have trails, that, lakes are clean, whatever it is that it takes, and safety related to make sure that we can then invite the community to come outside and partake. Active living does not translate you need to go exercise all the time. You don't need to go pump iron. Some of you choose to do that way. But just enjoy the outdoors. Make sure that you're, active, and that helps, to have a long and healthy life. Of course, healthy children, you can imagine that if we focus on our children in the community and start now to address some of the issues that happen in the teen years or later on in life, we are going to have a much better outcome. So a lot of funds and awards are targeting that area, and I'll talk a little bit more about. But again, the range is very wide. You have to go see the report to truly understand what we're trying to accomplish. Healthy minds is exactly what it says. It's mental health, it's drug reduction and prevention, tobacco prevention, and so on and so on. So healthy minds is the third of the large strategic areas that we focus on. Beyond that, we have Healthy LaPorte and Healthy Partners. Healthy LaPortes are grants below $25,000 that don't quite nicely fit into one of those categories, but there is still a need in there, a not-for-profit that needs help with a program for the community, and we're there to make sure that we're assisting that too. And Healthy Partners are all the not-for-profits throughout the county that we want to bring to increase their capacity so they can deliver better services, to attend more people. So capacity building is something that we're very focused on. And that was the beginning conversation to create this building. So this building, I'm going to focus for 1 second, is a gift to the community. There are 3 spaces in here. This is the public space that you're sitting on. You see each color translates into a separate room. We can separate and have 3 rooms in here. And we do have a brochure, and we do have that on the website. It's open to not-for-profits, to the city, to the county, to schools, and different presentations for health-related, and it's free of charge. This is a gift to the community to make sure that you have an appropriate space, that we have technology, which, by the way, we're still working on. Because of COVID, you can imagine that certain items that we placed an order a year and a half ago are still not here. But eventually, you know, this is going to be hopefully the state of the art in technology too. So if you want to learn more about it, I ask us for the brochure, or just go to the website. We also have a room across from those three, and that's Lily Lake. That has a boardroom that sits 10 people with technology, and other areas that could be utilized, a great outdoor space. And, you know, for all of that, we want to see the community more involved, and we call it connect the dots. How do we bring partners to the table to help us solve whatever issues are here? So those are the defined areas that we are very concerned about. And so far, from November 2017 to June of 2001, we have awarded about $22 million in grants. And out of those, target just for the city of LaPorte is 6.4, almost 5, of grants specifically for different areas, but specifically a lot of that you can see we're every day celebrating another. Seems like we celebrate a lot, right? But we must, because we need to also communicate to the community. You know, it's not that the city is doing PR on our behalf. It's just communicating to the community, this is now available to you. Therefore, the celebration. So I thank Mark Schreiber a lot, because it's a high level of communication, and the board of directors is thrilled that we can tell the community that this is now available to you. There are 2 deep dives that we do, and those are bringing, again, all the partners to the table. Partners in Prevention is a grant offered for 3 years. We gave every school in LaPorte County that wanted a planning grant to see what program, evidence-based program, would you like to select? And we had a short list created by, you know, incredible universities throughout the United States that segregated the programs that are available and appropriate to be delivered from from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. So this has been approved by the board as a $2.8 million initiative to be able to train the teachers, train the counselors, deliver the program. And the halo effect of this is all of us speaking the same language when it comes to substance use prevention. And of course, he has the halo effect of mental health impact, and you name it. It is a very, if you want to learn more, again, go to the website. And this is modeled after the Richard Fairbanks Foundation that I had an opportunity to learn about this very impactful program. And we're the second one to adopt those programs in the state of Indiana. And now there are 4 foundations funding. So besides Indianapolis, LaPorte, the third one was Bloomington, and now West Lafayette. And the state is looking at that as a best practice, and hopefully we're going to be adopting that everywhere. And again, keep teaching the bus driver to speak the same language, to be able to identify the parents, and so on and so on. The second deep dive is, a great concern we have about our infant mortality. Again, LaPorte has one of the highest numbers in the state of Indiana, and low birth weight, because, moms, to give you an idea, 51% of our moms do not get first trimester pregnancy care. So there are a lot of work to be done, and we have the 2 hospitals at the table. We have HealthLink, we have the health department, you name it, Doombrook, whoever is delivering anything related to prenatal and natal care is around the table, and it's very successful. We have Dr. Wieland, one of our board members, as the clinical expert, guiding us on how do we solve some of those issues. So that has been working quite well, and again, some of the grants are tied to, let's make sure this number changes. It's very important that our babies are healthy. Again, healthy children starts from prenatal all the way to, whenever they're no longer children, right? So if you have any questions, please go to the website, contact me, and I am going to briefly tell you a little bit more about 10, 20, 30 at this next presentation. Do you want to talk anything about?
Absolutely, and thank you, Maria. And I just want to remind everybody, the Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte's responsibility is not to repair our roads, our sidewalks. Their mission is to improve the health of our community. People that are concerned about the sidewalks, streets that we have, I'm responsible. Come see me, contact me if you have concerns. It's not their job to fix our roads and sidewalks. What they're doing is amazing for the future of our community, but these dollars are specifically used to improve lives in our community. So thank you for that. And as well as we talk now and move into the next segment, as a part of the local fiscal recovery funds that we've all talked about, we've heard about, and with housing being a primary focus, improving the lives of those lower income, poverty-stricken people of color, race. I asked Maria, and we partnered together to say, we've heard the problems about Jefferson, Maple Avenue, and Harrison, but when you want data, where do you go for true data so we can share a story of what the real problem is? And so we partnered with Maria, and I just wanted to share, we presented this to the council yesterday, and more as an FYI for the Board of Works, wanted you to be aware, these are the actual numbers of maybe why there's a problem, why there's so much effort by the police department in this area, why there's so much problem in code enforcement, and we want to break that chain of poverty, and this is the first step. So with that, Maria, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. And again, all the decisions that we make, HFL staff and board of directors, are based on data, by the way. It's not by hearsay or what's the favorite approach. We make sure that it's a very prescribed way of identifying needs. So we have created a website attached to ours that's called 10/20/30. Remember, that's our vision. That is basically an up-to-date source of health and socioeconomic data. There you can find anything that you're looking for. Demographics. You want health information. You want local and health wellness resource. What do we have in the community? Who delivers this type of service? Where can I go for food? Whatever it is, it's in this website. Now, it's an everyday work, a work in progress, because things change, and we're always discovering something that we were not quite aware of it. But please take a look at it, and if you ever see something that is missing or needs to be added, please let us know. You can also learn about what we call promising practices, because if you scroll down, if you pick a subject matter, infant mortality, as an example, you have the numbers, you understand the whole process, you know areas of the county that have better or worse outcomes, but then you can scroll down and understand what are other communities in the country doing to solve this. And if you click there, so it'll tell you, such and such program in New York State, click here to learn more information, and you can contact the person or the group delivering that particular service and learn more about how to bring a best practice. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We adapt to our community, but there is a lot of promising practices in there, evidence-based, and then the second ones would be best practices, and the third ones is, it's a good idea, but it's not proven yet. But if you want to try this, there is many samples throughout. This is funded by the foundation. That was again the first gift we gave to the community, is the gift of knowledge. If you're applying for a grant anywhere, not just here, you're going to need to have information, right, Marianne? All kinds of different things you can find in here, and even the census information, and it's updated. It's a web-based, updated almost daily. And it's a product by a company called Conduit Healthy Communities Institute that many years ago was a company under the umbrella of IBM, broke away, and that's all they do is gather data from the best places, health department, whatever it is that's needed, and put it in this website. So this is how it looks like, and you're going to see what I'm going to focus on are those two indexes, social needs and food insecurity. You can go explore data, you can look at our local priorities, resources, you can get involved, you can even borrow some of the widgets if you want to put on your own website. And whatever under health, community, economy, education, environmental health. Hopefully you'll find in here. If somebody's tracking and have reliable data, you should be here. So we're going to focus on the census tract 1809-104-2300. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about, those topics that we listed in here. Map, demographics, housing, and then we're going to go on to focus on Jefferson, Maple, and Harrison neighborhood. So I call this the triangle. I know, Mr. Kosher, as a mathematician, you're going to look at me and go, whoa, this is not quite a triangle. It just looks like one, right? So for a lack of a better way to describe this shape, I call it the triangle. My apologies. If there is a better way, let me know. Here's the census tract, and just to give you some parameters in here, you see right on the corner, if you see my cursor, this is the hospital, here's the YMCA, here's the courthouse. So this is the census tract that we're looking at. The police department is right on the corner, right there, outside of that little triangle. So inside of this area of the census tract, which by the way, of course it comes from the Census Bureau, it is the total population in 2019 was 2,208, which represents for us in LaPorte City probably around 10% because we're at 23,000. We need to look at the new census to triple check numbers. And 2% of the total population in the county. Males, about 55.7%. Females, about 44.3%. Ages under 5, there are 67. Under 18, 381. Seniors, 249, representing 11.4% of this total group. And the median age of the entire group is 35.3 years of age. The races, you can see that the majority are white, but we have representation from others. And then the Hispanic Latino community represents 14.9% of the 2,208. So that gives you an understanding of who lives there, who is inside of that area. The total housing for the entire county housing units are 49,177. The census tract that we're referring to, 1,150, which represents 2.3% of LaPorte County. So this is the social needs index. When I'm referring to the triangle, is this little, can you guys see the little shape in here? Okay? This is the little triangle we're referring. That's the heart of our city. That's the downtown area. So the social needs index is comprised of multiple socioeconomic indicators, and they put together as a grouping, and it measures the socioeconomic need that's correlated to poor health outcomes. So you see that, again, it was developed by Conduit, and it goes from 1 to 5. I'm gonna show it to you. And again, the lighter colors are better and get a better grade to going towards the darker color. So there are 5 rankings in there. So you see that the socioeconomics index is comprised of income, poverty, families below poverty, percentage of civilian, unemployed, percentage of employed civilian on white-collar occupation, education if it's above 25 years of age plus with a high school degree or higher, and language, 5 years old and plus that speak only English at home. That's how they compiled this. And you see that unfortunately, the little triangle, you can see the color here, is the highest level of social needs throughout the LaPorte County. So you can see that unfortunately, that's the very dark blue back here. And again, The next one would be 9.7. You can identify by the numbers where the location. The lighter color, the better the social needs index. Of course, some parts of our county, because we're a farm and a lot of agriculture, it doesn't have as many people, so that helps also become a little lighter. Let's put it that way. And again, demonstrating to you in a different format, this is a bar chart that tells you 93.8% is the index need for that little triangle. So the downtown area, again, for food insecurity, is the highest throughout the county. And again, 96.7. So I'm going to just focus a little bit in a subsection of this area, Jefferson, Maple, and Harrison. This data, by the way, was collected by Mary Ann Richards, that you all know, the Office of Community Development and Planning. She did a fantastic job to be able to identify the following. So you see that this rectangular, the red, inside of the so-called triangle. That's the only area that we're focusing on. So inside of this area, there are 302 total structures. Keep in mind that structures are buildings, not individual homes or apartments. So it could be that a structure has 4 apartments, or it has 25 apartments, or whatever. So 162 of that rectangular structures are rental, which represents 54%, and 76 of them, a quarter of them, are owner-occupied. I'm sorry, 63% of them are owner-occupied. Oops, I went too fast. And then 76 of them, a quarter of those structures, are commercial, church, schools, and so on and so on. Before I go any farther, Mary Ann, any comments about this? You okay?
There's not enough time for me to comment.
I know. This has been a very, what I again call deep dive, truly trying to understand that area, what are the needs, what else needs to be done. So we do not bring solutions to the table. We just bring beginning ideas. Talking to the city, talking to a lot of you, those are just closing thoughts. How do we pick up that area and bring it to the highest level possible? How do we assist, the individuals within that area? And again, it's not everybody, you know how that goes. But what is it that we need to do to make sure that they have access to services, that they all know, about jobs if they're unemployed, or they have good living conditions? Remember, you cannot be healthy if you don't have a roof over your head and a roof that's appropriate. You don't want to be living with mold in your house, as an example, or whatever else needs to be done. So there are several organizations doing a part and a piece of this. How do we connect the dots and bring this around the table to be able to say, now we have a plan of action? How do we tackle? And again, guys, we're just looking at a small segment. You see that's a restricted area. Not to say that's going to be easy work, it is not. But what I'm saying is, we're not looking at downtown Chicago. We're looking downtown LaPorte. So right away, in our favor is numbers. It's doable. It's easier to identify. And how do we progress to the next stage? So here are beginning ideas. And this was just brainstormed among my staff. I have incredible staff. They're very small. Jennifer is sitting right here. Say hello, Jen. And we have Jessica Mays, that's our program officer that deals a lot with grants, a lot of research, and Mary Wellness that takes care of a couple of the, coordinates the 2 of our deep dives. She manages that process. So we're very small, but we try very hard to identify how can we address some of this before we bring a group. Of course, engaging the residents, understanding their struggles, their hopes, ideas for solutions, identifying best practices throughout the country. Who already was faced with this issue? What town? What is it that we can learn from them? The good, the bad, and the ugly. Don't go this route, you're gonna fall in a black hole. Or go this route because here's the success list. How do we identify neighborhood champions? Within each neighborhood, there are the ones that could be the leaders that could be helping to progress. Because you know how messaging is. We read on Facebook and we think that's law, right? So how can we create leaders within, not create, they're already there. How can we identify those leaders? How do we involve all the not-for-profit partners to connect residents to programs and services so they're aware of it? What are the creative ways to instill neighborhood pride? We talk a lot about LaPorte Proud. Can we do, I don't know, those are just concepts, paint party in 1 or 2 blocks to see the incredible results? Can we just come in and do 2 or 3 blocks as a demonstration project on how to take care of your yard? Or, whatever it does take. Pride is part of this process. How do we engage with key stakeholders, schools, churches, business, of course, the city of LaPorte, it goes without saying. How do we work with landlords to improve housing conditions? I know a lot of work is already going there, right, Jeff? Lots of it. But again, what else is it that we need to take barriers, away from the homeowners and for Jeff to be able to accomplish that successfully? And we should be looking at affordable home loan programs, financial education. Again, we already have a lot of this in place, but how do we now put all of this together to present to that neighborhood and be successful? So those are just ideas. It's beginning conversations, beginning ideas, and I'll stop here. Mayor, back to you.
Absolutely questions, but I think this will give you great data of why we're focused on Jefferson and Maple as the lowest income area really in the county, and why there's a real opportunity for the future to really improve the lives of people. We've seen the problem with landlords, rentals, and eventually looking at home ownership. Horizon Bank is very interested in this. They've connected us with a very successful program, an organization in Indianapolis. We have time. We want to make sure we do it right. But, what better way to try to make a difference in people's lives than the most needed area, which is right in our backyard, right in our downtown, that we want to develop. So, questions for Maria? With that, I'm going to give you what we presented yesterday, and thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for coming to our home. Again, this is just to demonstrate to the community this is available, and please use it. That's why we created this. Is the gift to the community of hopefully lovely space with, you can even have lunch outside and watch the lake. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
So I'm going to give you a very high-level, broad presentation of where the focus hopefully will be for the council as we move forward on these federal dollars. So we're moving there. And we do have 2 specific asks that we presented the city council yesterday, and that will come back for a vote at the next city council meeting. So the American Rescue Plan, LaPorte's plan for capitalizing on $11.4 million from the fiscal recovery funds. And really the priorities are creating affordable housing. And when you see the presentation that Maria just provided, you understand why. In that triangle is our biggest area. Also, when we talk about mitigation of COVID, mitigation of the pandemic, the People's House is the civic auditorium is discussed and talked about. Where would we be if we didn't have the civic for COVID testing, vaccinations, or even when we had the ice storm in January? Where would people have gone if they had to remove from their home? We have a facility that is in need of some upgrades. It's 100 years old. How do we make it for the people of this community 200 years old? As well, investing in high quality water and wastewater infrastructure, and reviving LaPorte's tourism, again with tourism being one of those industries that was negatively impacted from COVID. That's a focus on this bill. And again, as I tell you, we're not here to discuss politics. Whether you like what the federal government did, didn't like, doesn't matter to us. We were given this opportunity, and we fully support it, and we want to make the best use of these dollars. Number one, creating affordable housing. You've heard it firsthand today, setting a new standard for living in the city of LaPorte, creating a more humane condition of living for homes in qualified census tract, breaking the chain of generational poverty, and making home ownership more achievable. So one of the specific items that was presented to the council last evening was $185,000 of a incentive to the new owner of 701 Maple that is now taking that building, which was an embarrassment to our community of the lifestyle and what went on there. He is now committed to keeping it affordable, yet we are going to incentivize $185,000 for removal of lead paint, mold, removal of mold, and HVAC improvements, upgrades. And with that, he's also going to be under contract for the 2 homes that you see there, and hopefully demolition to provide parking and make 701 Maple kind of a standard, an example of what we want to get to as we move along this triangle area. But this is actual footage. You can see what we're facing, what Jeff Batchelor, what Paul Breton and his team, Andy Snyder and their team, what they face on a daily basis. You know, the lead paint, the disgusting areas that are in our community, and people deserve to live a healthy and respectful life. So besides housing, we've talked about the community's house. This is the people's place, and we have issues. We have HVAC needs, air conditioning, new roof, seating is an issue. And again, you combined the mitigation of COVID by improving HVAC, but also increasing tourism, and this building can compete with many buildings around our region to host events, to build that tourism, which specifically this bill does. And there's no other way for us to pay for these upgrades, much needed improvements. So as you can see, first option for emergency shelter, the potential for tourism, and ensure that the people's house is viable for the next 100 years. And you can see here, think about from an ADA accessibility, we all have family members that are getting older, walking up and down the Civic right now without a handle, without any support there is a safety concern. You see the older equipment, and you see where Abraham Lincoln sat in seat number 1 when he came to the Civic. So that's the need. Investing in high quality water and wastewater infrastructure. Again, we have a $100 million problem with a 100-year-old infrastructure. Obviously, wastewater and water have made an impact in this first year of our administration with the clerk treasurer, with our team to begin addressing that problem. But one example, when you think about it, we have the best park system around, natural resources around, and you drive on Truesdale Avenue or bike on Truesdale Avenue, and you see firsthand the issues that we have from basically the Flaherty and Collins Banks project all the way to McClung Road. And our goal, while we're updating with wastewater and water, is to hopefully come up with maybe a nice little roundabout with a road that upgrade in a road that hits McClung Road all the way along Truesdale. You think so, Nick? He shakes yes. I know Mr. Kosher, who bikes along that road, would support that topic. So,
Absolutely.
And again, reviving LaPorte's tourism. As we talk about tourism, everybody states how impressive our bike or our parks, our recreation opportunities there are. And we all seem to turn the other way when it comes to investing in equipment that keeps the maintenance of our parks at top level. So our low income, our people of color that may not be able to afford a gym membership or a way to work out can come free to our parks. But if we don't have the equipment to handle that upgrade and update, how are the people supposed to go and improve their health? As an example, on the next one, you can see this is an example of equipment that's being used currently. I think the lower gray one, I've seen Mr. Schreiber drive, so I assume he's the one that drives that truck. But we have a diminishing fleet, 20-year-old fleet, and it has to be addressed. So the second part of specific ask that we are doing with the council is a commitment of $850,000 to upgrade the entire fleet in the park department. That is in dire need and meets the goals of the American Rescue Plan Act. So our goal, mitigate the impact of COVID-19. You'll see that specifically with our updating of our parks, keeping those clean so people can be outside to exercise, stay healthy, but as well our civic auditorium, and then our housing. You know, we have multiple people living somewhere. If they're unhealthy, if they have mold, lead, the possibility of them receiving COVID is at a much higher rate. Help those in low-income communities, including minorities with affordable housing. If there's anything we want the media, and we see them here, we are committed to affordable, respectful, humane housing. And then as well, as a part of this bill, is to revitalize our tourism in the city of LaPorte. So we do, again, from that perspective, we just wanted you to be aware of where we're headed and the two specific asks, the $185,000 incentive for Tommy Very and his company that is upgrading 701 Maple to remove the lead paint, the mold, and upgrading with the HVAC needs. And again, that's going to turn into a nice little area that we can be proud of. Questions? Hearing none, we will now move to Nick Otis, beginning with the Norfolk Southern lease agreement.
Board of Works, before you today, you have the second amendment to lease agreement between the city of LaPorte and Norfolk Southern. This is well, the initial period is a short-term lease, but if we don't take action, this will continue to roll over. Between July 1st of this year, which obviously has already passed, through December 31st of this year, the base rental is $1. However, after January 1st, it becomes $5,000 a month. So I'm going to ask for two things from you today. The first being approval of the second amendment to the lease agreement. And then the second request will be, if you look at the renewal term, you must give at least 90 days notice of your intent to terminate the agreement. So my second request would be, or second motion would be, to allow the city to give the 90-day notice of termination effective December 31st. So I guess the first motion I would request is to approve the second amendment to the lease agreement.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, a second, discussion, and all I'm going to say is it's very disappointing that we have lack of a community partner in Norfolk Southern, the big guy that's pushing around the little guy, and the little guy, we finally said enough. It's just unacceptable. We see these issues statewide, region-wide, of different communities, of a large corporation that really has little and few interest in being a partner for our community. So this is something that will allow LEAP to move on into a new facility. We're disappointed about this, but in the future, we won't have to deal with Norfolk Southern. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
So second motion would be to allow the city to issue the notice of termination effective December 31st, 2021. The intent is not to send that notice immediately. It will be to send it sometime in later this month or in September, which is still within the 90-day time frame.
But we will notify them.
We're gonna send the signed lease agreement
Yes.
today, correct?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 90-day notice for termination.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. All right. Next item is the public offering on 150 Pine Lake Avenue, commonly known as the Don George building. The city previously requested bids pursuant to state statute, and I want to give just a little background on this. So anytime that the city is going to sell or buy generally property, the city has to get 2 appraisals, independent appraisals. And in this case, the city then cannot sell, at least during the first round, and I'll get to what will happen after today. The city cannot sell this parcel for less than the average of the 2 appraisals. So in this case, the city retained 2 appraisal services that specialize in commercial properties. Valuation Services based out of Valparaiso appraised the current market value at $255,000. I'm gonna butcher the other appraisal company. Nick Minnick, is it Kovacek? I'm butchering the name. Nonetheless, they appraised it at $40,400. So the average of the 2 appraisals is $147,700. This is obviously a unique property, and that's why you see pretty significant variation in the appraisals. There is significant cost to either demoing the property altogether or repairing it, as Mr. Snyder had indicated. So the city received 1 bid in response, and it's from a group that the city has previously worked with, and there's a very nice bid. However, the bid came in at $30,000, and so, and I think that Dudley spoke at the last meeting. I think there's very good reason why it came in that low. I think there's a lot of cost potential here that he would incur renovating this property, and he's already significantly renovated 1 property here in the city of LaPorte that is very nice. But by statute, we cannot accept that offer right now. But I want to read to you what the next step, if you reject that bid today. The city can, first we will need to reject all offers. But the board may dispose of the property for less than the average of the 2 appraisals under the subsection only after publishing a notice in accordance with a different Indiana statute, which we will take the next steps on, I think, if the Board of Works rejects this offer today. So I guess what I would reiterate, I'm sure the mayor would too, to Dudley's group, is that it's not that we're rejecting this because we don't like their proposal or anything. We just, by statute, at this point, cannot accept it. May accept it in the future once we go through this process, but the first round, we have to at least attempt to sell it for that appraised value. I think, Mayor, if you want to comment too, kind of on what the process or the thought process of the city is with the end use of this property.
No, absolutely, and we want to make this an active area for the public. We want to have public access to Lily Lake, and Dudley Byler's been a great partner. You've all seen the first example on the corner there on the south side of Monroe on Lincoln Way. Amazing, and so we're excited about partnerships in the future. It's also nice to see Sam Lebesnick here, who might be interested now as this goes out, but I think our goal is to send this back out for bid. We have to address the building, or I won't be able to see Jeff or Andy around, because they'll remind me every day, and we do want it to be addressed ASAP, yet this fall, so we want to move quickly, and we will bring this back out for bid. But again, as Nick said, and to reiterate, this is nothing against Dudley Byler. We think very supportively of the work that he's doing, so we want to see him do more work here, as well as the other developers that have done a good job for the city of LaPorte. So with that, do we need a motion to reject?
Yeah, we need a motion to reject the offer because it is below the average of the 2 appraisals. There's going to be 2 motions, so that's the first one.
Do I have a motion to approve?
To reject?
Yes, based on it being lower than the average of the 2
So I do have a motion.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
And the second motion would be for the city, and I'll work with the clerk treasurer's office and Mr. Heinhold to get the notice out pursuant to Indiana Code 5-3-1-1 through that process.
Do I have a motion to approve that?
Yes,
Just say to publish the notice.
to publish the
Yeah,
notice,
yeah.
thank
So I
you.
have a motion to publish the notice.
Yep.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Discussion?
I'll just make one comment, kind of a general comment about this. I mean, it's kind of really one of the reasons why when we approve several things, I mean, the bids, right, get opened up right at the Board of Public Works meetings, and then we approve them pending, legal review, pending engineering review, and part of it is to just make sure that we're not missing some piece, right? Because, I mean, really, with this, in regard to this particular property, with this bid process, there's no choice here. Like, this is what must be done, period. So it's.
Right, at this point. Now, it could come back that we, after we go through this process, that we take that offer literally as it stands, but the city can't accept it at this point, so. It's a unique property because I think, you saw the two appraisals were wildly different because of the uniqueness of what, is that structure coming down? Is it partially coming down? I think Andy Snyder would recommend that a good chunk of it comes down due to safety concerns, so. But that makes it hard for a developer to, and that could be $150,000 just to demo the building.
So what's the time frame now going forward with the
Well,
new publication
yeah,
of the
so
notice?
It'll probably be, by the time we get that all done, it'll probably be the first September meeting that I would suspect we're coming back. Maybe this next one, but I would think it's unlikely.
What do you mean?
The notice has to be published in the newspaper, and I think probably at least 10 days before we can take bids, and that'll be open for a period of days. So I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, Clerk Treasurer, but I would think the first September meeting.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We would be opening bids?
Correct.
So I do have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Finally, Attorney Otis.
All right. The third item that I have, the last item, is the resolution terminating the 39 North Conservancy District Water Supply and Distribution Agreement. So a little history here. The first, the city of LaPorte provides water supply to the 39 North Conservancy District, which is on the north of the city. People are probably most familiar with Briarleaf Golf Course, Haynes International, Tiffany's Woods. The district runs all the way, actually, up to Family Express at the intersection of 39 and 20. The first contract was between the city in 1997. There was an amendment in 2005. The amendment in 2005 did two things. One, it extended the time of the contract to 20 years from that date, so the effective last date would be May 4th, 2025. And it required that if either party decided to terminate the agreement, it must provide at least 3 years' notice of termination. So last night, the council approved this resolution. At a minimum, the Board of Works had to approve this, and I think the mayor wanted to go through council as well. I'm sure the mayor will be happy to provide his opinion, and there's a few department heads here that have an opinion as well. One of the comments that I'll make, that I made last night, was there's been a pretty significant disagreement between the 39 North and the city for a while. The one that I think bothers me from the perspective of working on projects on your behalf is that 39 North has currently on their website right now a tax comparison between being in the 39 North Conservancy District and the city of LaPorte. So we provide the utilities, and they're bragging on their website that they have significantly cheaper property taxes. And you've got people here, all of the department heads, that are working on economic projects for the city, and they're bragging that you come to our district and it'll be cheaper than if you go to the city of LaPorte. So that bothers me is, you know, representing all of you. So that's, from my perspective, that's an issue, and I'll let the experts on water explain their concerns, so.
So before we hear the discussion, do I have a motion to terminate the 39 Conservancy District Water Supply and Distribution Agreement?
So moved.
A second.
I have a motion and a second discussion, and again, we're giving over 3 years' notice, so there's plenty of time to do something if they're interested. But I'm gonna tell you this, when I listen to Andy Snyder, I listen to Tim Werner, and we talk about a dangerous situation, and I'm using their words, unsafe for fire protection. And we just recently had to notify a project, a housing project that could be going in north of Briarleaf, that we can't guarantee appropriate fire suppression to deal with a fire. Now again, we just saw what happened in Miami with a condominium project, and we now are aware of this. We know that it is a dangerous situation, and morally or ethically, to just turn our heads away and act like it's not out there is unfair to those non-residents at 39 North. And so when you use lack of a recommended infrastructure, when you build this, and you'll hear from Tim Werner, you're asking for problems, but as well you have dirty water that are coming into our community for residents, for businesses. They're receiving a bulk rate while the non-residents pay a higher rate than our residents, and they're receiving all the profit in between. Yet our clerk treasurer's department is doing all of the work. And as I said last night, I'm not sure, as we talk about efficient government, what the purpose of the 39 North Conservancy District is, besides collecting funds. They have, last time we were told, and Tim Werner was there, they have over $1 million in the bank. They need to update their infrastructure. I believe we need to have our professional firefighters that do it every day, partnering with them for fire protection. And there's a couple other things. But again, we are not going to settle. We are not going to settle to protect those non-residents. So with that, from a safety perspective, I'd like Andy Snyder to be brief about the concerns and direct about the concerns that we have and have had for years with the 39 North agreement.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, from our standpoint, as is always the case, a life safety, property preservation aspect, that's what we, when we were asked about this agreement and moving forward, I had pointed out to the mayor as well as the other department heads that I would be negligent if I said that everything was fine and we should just go ahead and continue on the same path, because it is not. It's a dangerous situation. It's been a dangerous situation for a long time up there. Goes back to when it was originally implemented, when it was designed. It probably was within the concept of what was there at the time. I know it was with the concept of what was there at the time. As you can see, and the mayor mentioned, it's not the same as what it was. It's just not a bunch of residences anymore that it's there to protect. It's woefully under sufficient for what the need is right now. And again, from the city standpoint, I feel it pertinent I make sure from a liability that we're not part of continuing to allow for underflowed water to be sent up to that area. If they want to fix the problem, they want to take care of it, that's a different story. But there's all sorts of different things that have been thrown out there, none of them that are actually in progress to make it work. And so the longer that this continues, the worse that it is from our standpoint to be part of it. I can give you, they can say, oh, well, show us example. Well, we can give you example. A couple of years ago, a previous water superintendent asked me to facilitate a meeting with Center Township Fire Department, who is the department of coverage up there, because they just ran a simple training exercise hitting those hydrants. And our water department received phone calls from the Hampton Inn and from Porte asking why we had shut off their water. That's the system, and now, in a real life situation, you're expecting us and them, because we run a mutual aid agreement with them, to fight a fire and then with that underserved water. So that's the real examples. I can go back to, NFPA 1142 talks about water flows needed and so on and so forth. NFPA 1 specifies what you need to do up there as far as water for an available building. Those buildings that are going in up there are just not able to be served from this. And Tim will go into a little bit more of why that is and what makes that different from the city and what we can confidently and rely on our safety of our personnel in the city because we know we have the water available to protect our lives as well as the people that we're supposed to serve. But up there, I can't sit here and say that I would support that. What brought this to light too, and has really moved it forward from my standpoint, is because I was asked some opinions from a developer, from a person that's investing in a development for an proposed assisted living facility to go north of the Hampton or right in the Hampton Inn area. And again, in good conscience, I can't say that, yeah, am I going to say, yeah, you can make it work with what you have and put elderly people at risk in a facility that they think is safe. It's not the case. So that's why I brought my concerns to the mayor and it's basically started this moving forward to where you're at right now.
And we had a direct meeting, and Nick was there, Andy was there, Tim, Jerry Jackson, where we informed the 39 North Conservancy District this was not an acceptable contract. It's been over a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Over a year. So we have done our part. We've given much notice. We've been open. We've had meetings, and we can't move forward under the current situation, nor will we. So, Tim, would you explain a little bit about the infrastructure? And one thing on the chief, I think though that the infrastructure back then, while it might have been good for what was there, it was also cherry-picked and not what we recommended. So can you explain that?
Yeah, I gave all the board members a letter
Can
that.
you move your mic a little closer?
All the board members a letter that I sent to Jerry Fedorchak when he was looking for letters for his insurance company to show that there was proper fire protection in that area. So it's kind of a short breakdown of the history. So in '97, the city of LaPorte did a service study. What would infrastructure would be needed to serve that area sufficiently at that time. We supplied that study to the 39 North Conservancy District. They went and hired a different engineering company and took a whole different direction on developing that area. The study that the city paid for to have completed had basically two options. Build a 12-inch water main running up that corridor and put a elevated storage tank on the north side of that, or run a 16-inch main without that elevated storage tank. Well, they chose to run the 12-inch main with no storage. So what happens in this situation out there? We've talked in here several meetings about dead ends. Dead ends in town that affect flow, hydrant, fire protection, and water quality. This is a dead end in a much larger scale, from basically McClung Road all the way to the toll road. You have a big dead end. So the way the system was built and the parameters for the system was a 1,500 gallon a minute limitation. Those limitations they're practical with what's in the ground. We can't force any more water through a 12-inch main. Inside the city limits here, if there's a working fire, we can grab hydrants off of different mains, different looped area. We have a ton of stored water up in the air to allow that water to come from different directions so we don't get these high flow events throughout the city. That's simply just not the case in 39 North. They're a higher pressure zone in the city, so their hydrants up there, if you take a snapshot of the hydrant in front of a property, they're good numbers, but it's only one hydrant. That's all that can be cracked up in that area. That's all that can be tapped because of the limitations through the piping and the booster station and the suction feed coming from the city. So realistically, if there's a working fire up there, the fire department has a choice to make when they pull up on scene. Allow the fire suppression system, if there is one in a business, to work, or open one hydrant. That's it. There's no other water to divert. There's no other pumps to turn on. That's something we can do inside the city limits here. You know, the fire department calls us, hey, we got a huge working fire. This is the area we're working in. We can bring multiple pumps online to bring that water from different directions to supply their trucks. With a 1,500 gallon a minute limitation there, I mean, that's what a pumper truck pumps, 1,500 gallons a minute. The aerial truck, I think, is over 2,000 gallons a minute. For us to be a mutual aid for that area, I think that's what they'd call on, would be the aerial truck. They would suck the main dry in no time out there. So I think there's a lot of misleading going on in that area. You know, if you take a snapshot of that hydrant right in front of their property, yeah, it works good. But that's for one hydrant. None of the other hydrants down the road come into play at that point. And I think that's being missed through a lot of different companies out in that area. So, you know, getting back to how this affects us. When we had these high flow events in 39 North, that water surges up Pine Lake Ave and then up 39 North. So what that creates for the business owners of, you know, Pine Lake Ave and the residents that live in that area is dirty water. That velocity travels so fast through, or the water travels in such a velocity through the pipe that it's scoring. Remember that picture of the main I had on my desk, the tuberculation there, it scores that off, suspends it in the water, and here we go. We're getting calls from city residents, no fault of their own or fault of the water department, of dirty water complaints. It's, to me, it's unacceptable. Not only is it a burden on the water department and the citizens of LaPorte, but it's definitely a safety issue. You know, it's time to do something about this. I know Andy, the mayor, myself, and everybody in this room would feel horrible if something did happen up there. You know, now's the time to bring this to attention. If we don't do something about this now, this contract keeps rolling over every year. It's built right into it. Every year it renews itself. So now's the time to put them on notice to make these repairs.
Yeah, I'd follow up too, that when I talk about residents up there, that system is designed basically to fight one resident fire at a time. And that's, we've had multiple instances in town where that's not the case. And when I talk, you know, go back to, I'd like to cite NFPA and everything, you're getting into exposures and things of that sort when you get into, especially the villas that are up there right now, right next to each other. We would need a large amount of water just to protect the next building over because they are so close. So when I say I'm talking about the business end of it, just please don't limit it to that. They have structures up there now that are very much affected by this low flow for residences, not just the businesses.
Questions for Andy or Tim?
Well, so one thing, we certainly have talked about the fire piece, the water flow. Is there any sort of a wastewater drainage issue that impacts anything regarding the city?
No, I think the wastewater part of their system is adequate. I know they have some issues with stormwater leakage coming in, but it's strictly about fire protection right now in that area, and you know, a cherry-picked design.
But not only just about fire protection, also the fact that it's affecting the residents and business owners in this city where we are and who we are responsible for taking care of. So I think that I really appreciate you guys going into so much detail to explain it, and I don't see how we can move forward with this contract, not if we're being responsible.
Well, you know, we've talked about water flow with the capacity for fire suppression in the city limits and making sure we don't have these dead-end mains, make sure the flow is right, to have these options. Clearly, it's not the case for the 39 North Conservancy District. So, I mean, there's and they're not part of the city, right? I mean, ultimately, ultimately, we are responsible for the city limits of LaPorte, first and foremost. And in the situation where, let's say there is a fire there that, pull a pump truck, tower truck, running full flow, maybe it's enough to handle that. But what if there's a fire in the city on the other part of town, right? So now those trucks are not, I see it as a significant issue for what is our primary focus and purpose, which is taking care of the city of LaPorte. Certainly, I don't say that to mean that, whether it's residents or the businesses that are in that district, because they really are part of our greater community, right? I mean, I know people that live there, I know people have businesses there, and looking at this decision, I feel very comfortable talking to them about why we're deciding in this direction for these reasons. We don't have to agree on it, but I think these are very valid reasons. And the one additional piece, and I think Mr. Otis, you brought it up, right, when talking about the fact that this isn't necessarily a mutually beneficial arrangement. It's an arrangement that largely benefits someone outside the city limits, right? When they're literally marketing development for that area to compete against the city, which for me is particularly troubling. That's just an extra piece. I mean, the primary reason I think that this is a good idea is because of what we've all talked about in doing the right thing, especially in that making sure that the first goal of benefiting the community of LaPorte. So that's just kind of in general.
I think it's important for the public and everybody here to realize, water systems weren't put in for drinking water. They were put in for fire protection. Drinking water was an afterthought of a water system, so first and foremost, it's to fight fires, protect lives and protect property, and that's just not the case out there.
So I do have a motion and a second. Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Andy Snyder, request to accept resignation from rank.
I'd like to make that very clear that this is just a resignation from rank. Zach Keeney is not resigning from the department. He is considered and would like to resign his position as training officer as of October 1st. So as part of that, I would ask that you accept the letter of resignation and authorize the merit commission to appoint his position and any other subsequent positions that would be vacated because of that appointment.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Thank you to Zach. He did a great job.
He has.
We really appreciate his leadership efforts.
Definitely.
All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Now we have Corinne that's going to be stepping up in replacement of Jen Knoll, who is away. And let's take her through this is her first time presenting, so don't make it easy on her. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Previously, the board approved the Teladoc Behavioral Health in addition to our UMR health plan. And today I'm just here asking for signature on that amendment, and it will be retroactive to 5/1/21.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you.
It's pretty easy.
We let her off the hook easier. Jerry Jackson or Lori Larson received quotes for Southmore stormwater improvements.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure how many quotes we received.
One.
We received one, okay. We have a project in the 400 block of Southmore that historically, behind the houses along that block and the Bernanke's property, which is now Chalik Properties, historically it floods during large stormwater events, and it remains for some time. Those residents and Chalik Properties have made several complaints. We have video, we have picture, and now we're ready to take action and open the bid.
I feel all your eyes. Satowski Brothers Excavating. I'm just gonna hand it over to you, Lori.
Oh, thank you. Satowski Brothers Excavating, their total proposal is $37,532, and it looks like 0 cents. 3753200.
Nick, do we need a motion for that based on legal and engineering?
Yes.
And So do I have a motion?
So moved based upon legal engineering review.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Is this where we thought it might come in at? Do we have any?
I do actually.
ballpark
Jerry
figures?
gave me his engineering suggestion. He assumed it would be around $50,000.
50?
50.
All right.
Is there a time frame on that?
The timeframe, actually, I have already secured the easement from Chalik Properties, and next Sunday I will be getting an easement from Dave Underwood that owns 411 Southmore. The drainage project will be mainly in his backyard. Both of those people have the plans, they understand. Jerry and I have spoken to both of them. The homeowner, Mr. Underwood, is on vacation until next weekend. So on Sunday, we're gonna meet with him and present an easement and answer any questions. He was agreeable to having it in his backyard, and this should alleviate all of the stormwater flooding in that area, so,
It's great.
yeah.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Request permission to solicit bids for McClung Road sanitary.
Yes, I would like to request permission from the board to solicit bids for McClung Road sanitary sewer extension. Where we would use a low-pressure system that would include grinder pumps, which is very similar to what we just did on the Lakeside Sewer Relocation Project. The system will be funded from wastewater's capital. There is a condominium project that will be going in. Jerry Fedorchak is responsible for that, and he would be responsible for the sewer line that would serve his property. There, the Eagles, VFW, Hubers, and there's an individual home that's being built at 161 McClung. They've also had active interest and have approached Jerry, and I believe maybe the mayor, a couple of them have, and they also would share in that cost. At least their tapping would be shared.
So they have to pay for hookup from their location to?
That is
okay.
correct. Yep, correct.
Eagles are very interested
Yes,
in
they
getting
are.
this done, so.
So is the VFW. Yeah.
Great band, too. They're a great band, too.
Are all of these, just to confirm, they're all within the city limits as we speak?
These are all within the city limits, to my knowledge, yes.
The VFW, I think, is.
I think
It
so.
could be right on the edge.
I don't think the VFW is considered city limit.
Is it not?
They are not.
Am I correct?
That I don't know.
They previously signed some type of annexation waiver.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
we'll have to review that with
Okay.
anybody that may not be a resident before we do the final approval. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Pending that review, right?
Pending that review.
Okay.
Well, this is
Yeah.
just to solicit bids, isn't it?
Correct,
Oh, that's
yes.
true.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true, okay.
So I do have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Mary Ann Richards.
Good morning. 2 weeks ago at the Board of Works meeting, we opened quotes for lead hazard reduction at 913 Ridge, and I went through the quotes and found that the lowest, most responsive quote was from Green Tree Environmental Services in the amount of $65,929.76. And I want to make a recommendation to award a contract to Green Tree Environmental Services for that amount.
Do I have a Did I miss the quote?
I don't have it either. I think it's because, is that the one that we opened and you had to go back to see if it was within your budget?
Yes.
So we opened it, or we saw it 2 weeks ago at the last meeting.
Right.
And then Mary Ann needed to make sure that it was actually within the budget, the annual budget for the two houses. I believe you had $75,000 left to
Right.
spend. Thank you.
And then also, after you approve or reject my recommendation, I need to have the board approve contracts or award contracts for quotes that were opened back in April that we had to stall because of this lead hazard reduction activity.
Okay, so how much do we have?
Should we make a motion first so we can talk about it?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that.
I'll make a motion to approve Mary Ann's recommendation for the lead removal.
Second.
I have a motion and a second discussion, and again, so this is for 913 Ridge Street.
Right.
65,000 for complete lead removal, and how much do we have left in the account?
We actually, I looked at the budget, I've got $180,000 in the budget.
For both homes?
Right. And the total amount for both homes comes to $88,923.45.
Before the lead removal?
No, that is
That
including
includes-
the lead removal.
Oh, okay. So we're only spending half of that on both homes with lead
Correct.
removal. It's just a substantial amount of money to spend on,
But it's not, the money can be used for anything, not just for lead approval, or lead removal.
It can be used for anything within the homeowner repair program. It can be used for electrical, plumbing, roofing, lead hazard, general repairs.
but there's only two homes and she can't do anything in that particular home unless she removes the lead first, is that correct?
Right, unless I treat the lead hazards.
But as we talked, that neighborhood could have a lot of lead homes.
Correct.
Again, I'm uncomfortable. We need a lead removal plan, in my belief, an overall plan, before approving an amount that big, and 65,000 goes a long way to helping a lot of different homes, in my opinion.
This is about average for all of the lead reduction work that we've done in past houses.
What happens if we don't approve?
If you don't approve this, then I don't
amount
do anything else in the homeowner repair program.
For that particular house?
For that house or the other house. Because everything is contingent upon the contracts and the quotes. The quote
Based
for
on
electrical.
two homes?
Right.
Gotcha.
Includes both houses. The quotes for plumbing includes two houses. The quotes for roofing include two houses.
Sure, because you're getting a discount for them doing two at
Right.
the same time. So if none of this money, if this 90,000, almost 90,000 doesn't get spent, it rolls over into the next year?
Yes.
So I do have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Clerk Treasurer Barthune.
Mary Ann, does that just roll over? You turned in your budget?
Not in my budget.
Okay, I was
No,
gonna
would
say,
have to do an
adjust your
additional
budget.
appropriation.
Okay.
So would we?
And it would
move-
stay on our HUD line of credit. I've got 3 years to spend it.
Okay.
So let's say next year you have a $100,000 budget. This 65 would go on top of the 100, not become a part of the 100.
No, it'd be the 90 added back because she can't do any of the work at all for either home.
Right.
But what I'm saying is if you receive 100,000, just using made-up numbers, 100,000 next year's budget, you would also have
Plus
this
90.
plus 90. It wouldn't be you have 190 of it comes from this. You'll have 190 total. Because sometimes government, they'll say, oh, you didn't use this 90, so you can use that toward, as a part of your 100. And you're still only gonna get 100, but 90 of it, you know what I'm saying? I'm probably not saying it correctly.
confused,
You'll have
I'm sorry.
190 next year if we don't use this, say. You have 100.
Plus
using
the
made-up numbers,
90.
Plus the 90.
Right.
Okay.
So, but what is the average, because you mentioned that the
The average lead
65 is an
hazard
average.
reduction is roughly $80,000 per house.
So this is right in line with whether we do it this year or next year.
Right.
Potentially the cost, and it's not because of COVID or the fact that materials or services are jumping up or going
It's
exponentially high.
expensive to
It's-
do lead reduction, to
Yeah.
do abatement.
Regardless.
But I think we have to have an overall lead paint removal plan before we move, so a broad citywide, because this is gonna take a lot of funds, and I think we have to go look if we want to make an attempt at really making a difference here. This 65,000 could be used for multiple smaller projects that make a difference, correct, next year?
If lead paint, I have to have a lead risk assessment done on every single house that we admit into the program that was built prior to 1978. If there is lead paint or lead hazards available or presenting themselves in those houses, we have to address the lead. Whether the homeowner said, I don't want it done, I want this, I want some electrical issues resolved, we still have to address the lead. The majority of applicants in this program live in houses that were built before 1978. There is significant lead hazards in these houses.
How many homes in the last few years have we removed lead paint from?
Well, we've done roughly 120 houses in the past 16 years, and I would say 115 houses we've done lead hazard remediation. And that includes,
So you can basically count on having lead removal as part of
Yes.
anytime you're walking into one of these homes.
right. If I get a house, one of the things I look at is the age of the structure. When the families apply, I can go to Beacon, look up the address, see when the house was constructed. I know there's gonna be lead. Especially if there's original windows, original doors, the exterior of the house, the trim on the interior, the molding, if they have painted cabinets, kitchen cabinets, the basement floor, if a basement floor's been painted.
So I think it's a very valid and important point that there should be a lead paint prevention removal program, but Mary Ann's dollars cannot be used for that type of program. They can only be used, am I correct,
Oh,
Mary Ann? in the-
I can use the CDBG funding for the lead paint program. I mean, the lead hazard reduction would be a component of the lead paint removal program.
Oh, so they could be one and the same.
Right.
And the federal government doesn't provide any other opportunity grants for lead paint removal other than this program?
No, there is through the Office of Healthy Homes. There are grants that are available. I don't have the capacity to apply for or manage the grant because it's just me.
I just think when we're only receiving 500,000 or actually less than that to use. I understand what Mary Ann's saying, but that's my concern.
Yeah, well, agreed, right? The troubling part is that with the amount of money that comes in to address these issues and be able to do other repairs, we're talking about just a few homes a year for who knows how long,
Because that's the
right?
cost of lead removal.
Right.
Regardless of the situation. And going into, if out of 120 homes, 115 of them had lead, it's a given.
And this Healthy Homes, you're saying you don't have the capability of managing, how much money can you receive from Healthy Homes?
Probably $500,000.
Annually?
I'm not sure. The hard part about managing the grant is writing the grant, because it's a competitive grant that's submitted to HUD, and managing the grant and locating lead-certified contractors who can do the work at an affordable rate.
Do we have them?
It took
Right.
me 4 months to find 3 companies that would submit a grant or a quote. There's only 13 in the state of Indiana. Most of them are out of the Indianapolis area.
I will give my opinion and leave it to the majority of the board. I would be voting no if you asked me today, if we want to hold this vote and really dig in to have an overall lead removal, lead paint plan, look at this Healthy Homes and figure out if that's something we can receive $500,000 on. We have Tommy Berry, who's putting up 701 Maple. He's removing the lead. How is he doing it? I'd love to find out more information how he's removing any lead paint out of 701 Maple to see maybe there's more cost-effective options.
Can I make a recommendation?
Please.
These people are already in the pipeline. They've been vetted. I've got the quotes. I've got contractors who are ready to go. Can we just finish this? And then next year, let's work on developing a lead strategy so that we don't leave these 2 households in the lurch.
I don't think what the mayor's suggesting or recommending is a bad idea. I think it's just more time. And I understand your point of view as well, Mary Ann. So how much time do you think it takes to further research and or finish these 2 houses?
These 2 houses I can have done by the end of the year.
Okay. And what kind of timeline do we need to research the other?
I would have to go to the
grant.
Office of Healthy Homes, which is out of Cleveland, Ohio, talk to one of the grant managers there and find out when the grants open. And then it will take some coordination with the health department, possibly the Healthcare Foundation, and other funding sources to come up with an integrated strategy to address lead within the city of LaPorte. Michigan City got, I want to say, probably more than $500,000 a couple years ago through the Office of Healthy Homes, and they were unable to complete the grant because of labor shortages. Trying to find certified lead contractors.
So, and will you not be starting your search for new homeowners?
I'm
soon?
already in the process.
You're in the process
Yeah.
now. Okay.
But, I can take applications. That doesn't mean I have to act on them.
But your budget for the entire year was 180, and the price for this is under half of that, meaning the other half would roll forward into the following year. On top of whatever dollar amount it is, I don't know that that's been budgeted or decided towards a bigger program, possibly with further grant money.
So I
Yeah.
do have,
Well, I was just going to clearly, like from all the discussion we've had about this, it's not a situation where there really is a good answer, right? It's not like one of these clearly stands out as the right thing to do. These are both difficult decisions to support or not support moving forward. Mayor, I totally understand where you're coming from with this. It's troubling to me. It's troubling to me to say, well, so next year, 12 people come forward and we have to tell 6 people no. It does look like right now these expenses are going to be significant, kind of no matter what. It's also troubling that, like, I'm not sure, like, the city should be responsible for doing this, period. But clearly through the grant program, right, we help folks with repairs. And I think I might have asked this before, but anybody who's going through this program, right, their income is such and their assets are such that they couldn't cover this.
Right.
Sitting out of savings somewhere or something.
Correct.
Because again, kind of many of the discussions we've had today about other things is like benefiting one group to the disadvantage of others. And unfortunately, I feel like we'll be in that position to benefit these folks and maybe not be able to provide the similar benefit to other people who may be just as qualified or maybe even more qualified and have greater need. Really, both directions trouble me. I do agree. I'm not sure we can just sit on it. So I feel like I would support this to take care of these 2 homes, knowing full well that next year we may not be able to say yes to people like this. But it is troubling. I'm not sure that that's really what we ought to be doing with the money exactly, but right now,
that
maybe
is the intended purpose and use of the funds.
This is an
This
eligible
is-
activity.
Yeah.
As one option, it's an expensive
Right.
option. And I believe there's other opportunities out there to really review, because there's also a lot of needs to affect a lot of homes that we can do. So what I would tell you is, and I understand your points and respect both of yours, may I amend the motion?
Has to be seconded, yeah.
What I would ask is amend that the support for these, we're gonna do 2 homes, correct? You're in support of doing 2 homes, that no further lead paint projects are done until we have a plan of lead paint in the city after these 2 are done.
Well, I don't know that you
think
need a
those are
motion. You don't
separate
need a motion for
issues.
that, because you'll just, won't take them up until you
But
have
I'd like it on record, but that's
Oh.
fine. I just wanna make sure we understand, Mary Ann, this is it. If we don't have a lead paint plan, we have looked at all options and alternatives, and we'll leave the motion as is so you can move forward on these 2 homes. Then, if you'd like.
There's already a motion to approve these 2 homes.
Correct.
There is.
That's all you need to do then, yeah.
And again, in
Yeah.
advance, I'm opposed to this.
I think
but
what you could do is make a second motion then, that don't, I mean,
We'll just leave it with this
Okay.
motion. So further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 2-1. Thank you, Mary
Okay,
Ann.
thank you.
Chief Breton, last but not least.
I'm just trying to get ahead of this. I was notified last week that Corporal Joe
Thank you.
Toth is planning on retiring. His last day would be September 15th of this year. He has 30 years with the city. He worked 10 years, I believe, wastewater, and he's 20 years of police. He said it's enough. So, with the state backed up and everything, I just want to get permission to start the hiring process. It won't take effect till September 16th, and also there'd be a promotion to corporal at that time. So that's what I'm asking for, is just that permission to start the hiring. We did just do an agility test. We're doing an interview Friday for a new position, and knowing that that is coming open, just trying to get the ball rolling.
So
Do I have a
moved.
motion? So I do have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
second? I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Joe Toth, what a great officer. Really did a fantastic job for our police department, and wish him the best.
He will be missed.
I
Very
agree.
valuable officer.
He set a
Great
great
person.
standard. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Unfinished business, other business, I'd like to thank Doolin Media for adjusting their movement over here to making this work so we can showcase the Healthcare Foundation of LaPorte. Thank you to Maria Fruit for support of this. And then last but not least and most important, the glue. If she could stand up for making this happen, and Lake Fest, everybody. Annette Leffer, thank you for all you've done to make all this happen over the weekend and yesterday and today. So with that, do I have a motion to approve?
Adjourn?
So I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.